Hello, everybody. This is the MSP Mountain Podcast. My name is Eric, and I today have Howard from Project Fuel on the line from us, and they do project proposals for MSPs. And as our co-host today, we have Zoran, who's a support adventure network engineer who has been with us for 4 years. So since he does a lot of projects, I figured getting him on to talk to Howard and figure out how this works with MSPs and how it would, improve the life of project engineers like him. And so also Howard can share how he can improve the profitability of MSPs and all that sort of stuff. So Howard, why don't you give us the short introduction to Project Fuel, and welcome.
Okay, thanks for having me. Project Fuel is a business geared toward helping MSPs improve professional services delivery. So we have two product offerings: Project Fuel, the coaching program, and Design Desk Fuel. The Project Fuel program is a program to help MSPs become more efficient, deliver tools to help them manage their professional services teams, and improve billing utilization, improve utilization across the teams. Design Desk Fuel came up as another product offering after working with MSPs and seeing that they were having trouble getting their design desk or just proposals out the door to clients. Seemed like it was always on the back burner. Engineers are running around doing what they do, working on projects, solving reactive issues. And when the MSP was asked for a proposal, they would struggle to get it out the door in a timely manner. And MSPs, the whole managed service industry, is geared toward being proactive and getting out in front of technical issues. So when they do that and they identify a technical need and they identify a client issue, they want to return a solution to the client as quickly as possible. So having proposals take too long to get to the client's door has become a problem for them. And so Design Desk Fuel answers that problem by delivering a predetermined amount of proposals every week to a client. 5-day turnaround average. Proposals get back to clients at a much quicker pace. It helps clients build their backlog, their professional services backlog. It helps them sell products. It really helps them become more profitable and more efficient.
Great. And Zoran, if I can just ask you to chime in and, just say hi, first of all, what's the first thing that comes up when you realize that there's a service like this that not only can MSPs now outsource staff and, all sorts of stuff like that, but also the project level of planning and all that stuff. How do you think that fits in the MSP world that you've been working in?
Well, first of all, hi, everyone. It's good to be here. And honestly, I think it's a great addition because it creates a separation. Myself, I work more on the ground and I'm more towards the execution of all of these projects. And I've had some sort of involvement with the planning of certain projects, but at the same time, it is nice to know that there's a dedicated resource that would sort of help to look at these things and has a lot more experience in the advantages and pitfalls in stuff that maybe a company that has both the management side and the staff side, or like the technical side, to have a company that focuses solely on something like that and can specialize in it and offer probably a more concise and a more well-rounded approach than companies and people like us who try to do a bit of everything. So I think it's a welcome addition, and I'm quite interested to see what something like this can bring to the table.
Now, one question I had for you, Howard, knowing a lot of MSPs are run by guys like me who started as neighborhood computer guys who could fix everything, do everything, think they know everything. And basically having watched MSPs grow and have that sort of personality of the owner and founder be sort of a weakness, and how he or she would then hire other people who have overlapping weaknesses, meaning the same type of person, and they think they know everything and they have their own opinion of doing stuff. How do you calibrate to people like me who think they know everything, who are a little bit hesitant to outsourcing a key part of their business? How do you convince them that you're going to actually be able to deliver better results than they themselves can if they get around to doing it?
So for me, I know I look very, very young, but for me, I've been around for a really long time. I started my first business in 1983 running
That's
around
when
the
I was
countryside
born.
doing computer service. There you go. So I started my first business a long time ago, and I've kind of cut my teeth on reactive services, then proactive services, then the managed service industry, and have a lot of experience. I've also run two very successful MSPs in my career. So for me, it's just really an experience thing, and being able to present to them, being able to present to a potential client or an MSP or a specific entity within an MSP, whether a VCIO or network administrator, just through the experience that I have, telling them how, I've done things in the past. And I think the experience that I have and the way I, it's mostly the experience, but also the way I can deliver the message of how I think things should be done and how they may benefit is always a welcome approach for them. They're willing to take the advice of someone that they can tell has a lot of experience and background in the industry.
Definitely. And but you must have some personalities who are like, no, our MSP is different because we do it this way. I mean, and how do you adapt to the individual vision of like a founder? I'm just asking because I'm the sort of guy who anything that's about vision and direction and brand integrity, I would be super apprehensive outsourcing that. So what would you set, how would you set their ease to, okay, you have lots of experience, but what if I believe that my business is so specific in the way we're delivering these projects? And is there a one size fits all approach, or do you sort of adapt what you're doing to specific MSPs, and how do you do that?
I've been more successful in going with my approach. I think I know at the end of the day what they're looking for. They're looking for advice and something that turns into tangible results, usually tangible financial results. And so if I can help them understand that they'll get there following certain specific business practices, they're usually willing to kind of bend a little bit. Or it doesn't mean I do everything always my way, or everyone takes every bit of advice that I have. Every one of the CEOs that I work for are very intelligent and very, they're just great business people. And so I have to listen to them and I have to understand their perspectives. But at the end of the day, they want my results. So generally it's kind of having a meeting of the minds what that is. And as an example, I met my second client was actually a business out of Jacksonville, Florida. And the owner didn't sell projects. They were part of his MSP agreement, part of the chocolate cake, they call it. He included his projects in his managed services agreement. And he was just running himself and his people down the road to a difficult situation where they couldn't afford resources, but yet they were bringing on new clients. They couldn't afford the resources because they weren't selling and monetizing projects. So after a number of discussions, and before I actually met his team, we agreed that might have to change. And I presented a way that could be done in a graduated basis, and he was willing to kind of work through that with me, and we really turned his business around, actually.
Yeah, so yeah, and one of the things I always tell people that you get when you hire Supportive Venture to do your staffing or help desk consultation is you get sort of like a bird's eye view of the industry, of how working with dozens of different MSPs have helped us sort of understand what works and what doesn't. So would you say that mentoring, a little bit of mentoring on the side of project delivery is included in what you do?
Yes. And what you just said is so true. That really resonates with me. The fact that you see the field, I mean, in proposal development, let's just take that aspect of it. I mean, we write proposals for many MSPs across the country. And basically we see how they do things and we adopt best practices, and every one of my clients gets the benefit of that knowledge and the things that we pick up and learn every single day. So it's not a static thing for me. I mean, I don't mandate that we have to do things a certain way. However, you just, you pick up things and you learn it, and every client gets the benefit of that.
Okay, so Zoran, why didn't you step in here? Yeah, I wanted to ask you some of the nightmare projects that you've had to execute that was proposed and sold from your perspective as a technician that put you in an awkward position.
There haven't been many that have just been nightmares, but I have a couple that are memorable. And honestly, what I find that happens quite often is that you get either over or under scoping of projects to some degree of making it, a thing that can be wiggled around. But then there are certain situations where projects get very much under scope because the people that are trying to put them together don't have as much of an understanding as they should of how much some part of the process might take. And that leads to awkward conversations with clients where you have to go down the line asking for more money because you're like, oh, hang on, we said 20 hours and it ended up 40. Whoops. You want to avoid that sort of thing because
That's usually it. It's about double.
And it'll sour things pretty quickly unless it's, I've had situations where the clients and the business have had a long business relationship for quite a while and they let things slide. But to me, I get a little frustrated with things like that. I was part of an organization for not that long at the time, and I think, at least from my perspective, I have this need to, like, hang on, we can fix this, we can improve this, and even if it's not my place, I bite my tongue sometimes, but there are times when I'm like, this could be so much better, we could have planned this better, and they're like, no, it's fine, we'll sort it out with the client, they'll pay the fee. That's one of the main things, and one of the other things that, for example, something that I like to take on, whether I'm planning a project or whether I'm part of a project, I double check attention to detail. Particularly things that I've come across is a specific licensing for a specific, not so much software, but hardware, like with Cisco stuff. You get really muddy with the sort of licensing that offers you kind of features and functionality that some people on a high level look at it and think like, oh yeah, that's that very same license. We can do the VPNs, we can do all that. And then it boils down to it, and it's like, no, it's quite a specific subset of these services that you want to offer. And either they've overcharged the client for something they're not going to use, or it hasn't been done in such a way to offer them the functionality that they asked for.
Mhm.
There have been other examples. I'm just kind of cherry picking, but to be honest, it becomes the antithesis of project planning, is when you've planned but you haven't planned, and it's annoying.
Okay, so what
yeah.
does that bring up for you, Howard, in your experience?
Oh man, so many things. So many things. Trying to, just all of that resonates with me. So number one, successful professional services teams propose, start, work, end projects on time. There is no way you can do that unless you propose the right amount of billable hours. Because if you run out of billable hours and your goal is to bill more hours, you have to start another project before you finish the one you just started. So before you finish the one you were working on. So you have to propose the correct amount of hours. Someone who doesn't have the technical experience is going to leave you short on that end. Whereas we have project engineers who have, like you, Zoran, who have done this work, time and time again. They know how much it's going to take. We also, you also have to know the business requirements so that you can thoroughly deliver a solution, not just technical requirements. You need to know what the end result needs to be, so you can deliver that and get out and get it done. So if you're only focusing on technical requirements, you're going to miss business requirements and then maybe end up in a bad place as well. So with those things alone, create problems. If you don't propose the right amount of time, you're going to end up in a situation where you have to bill the client more. They'll be unhappy when you deliver that messaging to them. So the thing is to start off right. It's to start off with a well-founded plan. Now, if you have, again, back to that thing I was saying before, if you have engineers who are being pulled out of the field to do things and they want to do a proposal in a rush, you could potentially get into that jeopardy where not enough time was given to the sciencing out of the solution, the actual amount of time, the steps. If you don't have somebody who has project management experience, I mean, a project is a step of is a series of tasks to get to the end, but those series of tasks in chronological order change based on the client's business requirements, their business cycles. their downtime, their maintenance windows, when they can have those. If all of that's not considered, you don't get a well-rounded proposal.
It has to be agile.
Let alone, we didn't even start talking about technical requirements yet, right? We're just talking about business requirements. So you have to, all those things have to be considered. Our solution, we use a Cisco lifecycle project methodology. It's something that people were trained on back in the days when they released the call manager Unity systems, and people were rolling out 10,000, 20,000 phones across the globe. Anyway, we learned a specific methodology that we use that takes a client through every life cycle phase of a project: the planning phase, the preparation phase, the implementation phase, the operate phase, which is the cutover, and then the optimize phase, which is after cutover, tweaking and cleaning up. So when you break down a solution in that way, it helps you think through everything that's necessary to go in the proposal. After you get all your tasks down and you go out and time out how much time it's going to take to work those tasks, you can't underbid. Okay, you can't underbid. At that point, you're literally writing a time to every task, and you have every phase of the project life cycle covered. So chances of underbidding and underscoping are minimized. The other thing is a project is a series of tasks, and to meet a business requirement and technical requirements. It's not do everything the client asks you to do while you're there. So at the end of every proposal, you have to have a list of things that aren't included in the proposal. As you're writing the proposal, as we write proposals, we think of all the things that the client might misunderstand of something that could be part of the proposal. And we call them disclaimers behind the scenes, but they're really proposal notes, the way we present them to the client. Yeah. But just enough so that, enough information so that the client can't misconstrue what the project is and what it is. It's these set of steps. By the way, it's not these set. And if you ask us to do these things, the things that are in the disclaimers, if you want us to do them, we're going to do them for you, but we're going to just propose them separately. And then the add-ons are the client asks, the things that were out of scope, and there's no discrepancy or discussion about who's paying for them.
Yeah, and occasionally those add-ons, depending on sort of the experience or the way that the project managers would decide to handle that, sometimes they get included and then the client asks for something and they bend and it just keeps going and going. And if you don't stop it right there, it can tend to get out of hand.
It does. A lot of times it does. And then the client gets used to doing that over the course of time. An MSP who's done 20, 30 projects for a client, and they get the same engineer every time, and that engineer agrees to just do whatever the ask is, things can get out of whack.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point. It's that an organization like yours can help to avoid the pitfalls of a lot of those planning problems because of the experience that you'd have. And as you say, when you include everything and you go step by step and you have a framework and you have something that's fleshed out, particularly because you've been doing it for so long, that it's guaranteed success to a degree. And then you tack on the part at the end, like, look, we have the disclaimers, we have the things that might come up later, but it leaves it all open to be like, look, we're here to discuss, but most of what we've given you is kind of how we propose, in our experience. Yeah. And that's a great part of what it is you do, from my understanding. So
one of the other things is we make a big deal out of what we call the knowledge transfer process. That's how we calibrate with the MSP and what it is that we're doing for their client. We take an assignment. It's usually a ticket on the design desk board that we create for them, and they give us a knowledge transfer. We have calls scheduled each week for the client for this forum of them handing over these cases to us, and then we ask them. We have a form that we use that measures up questions for every layer of the IT stack. And we ask those questions. If you're doing a server, we drop down to the backup section of the knowledge transfer form to ask the backup questions, because there's going to be some backup implications, or whatever the solution or the ask, whatever layer of the stack it's touching. It helps us gather the requirements, and we've gotten very good at this, to make sure we don't misunderstand business or technical requirements. And so with that, And with sciencing it out, developing a proposal that really addresses project lifecycle issues, it's hard to really go off the tracks. Now, I don't control what the engineer does and how many questions he's asked or things he's asked to do, at the end of the day when he's on the project, but I do control the fact that I've disclaimed things, that our engineers have disclaimed things that should not be, part of the scope of the solution.
Parameters, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't go beyond the lines.
Yeah.
I've got a question. Do some of your clients, MSP clients, use you to scope out their new clients? Like, for example, I'm going in and I know that this client has had this provider and they were giving, lousy service, put in some, they've got some old crumbling infrastructure, and we say, Howard, we want you to help us go and pitch for this contract and deliver a project proposal to replace their firewall with a good Cisco unit and, replace their server and all that stuff. Do you get involved at that stage, or is it only with existing clients?
No, we get involved with new clients, as the MSPs bring on their new clients. Generally that, an end use client is hopping from MSP to MSP because the previous one didn't do a good job. And when they get to the new MSP, it's like the floodgates open up and they want to make sure that every need that they have gets taken care of immediately. So, and they're a little bit tougher because we're working sometimes with it. We don't have all the information that we need to do a very detailed job, but we get as much as we can. But yeah, so we'll help MSPs take on their new clients. We've written onboarding work plans for our MSPs so that they can use it as a template to onboard their new clients. We've written some proposals that are, to help them put together a package for their clients for a security solution that they want that they can reuse, that we can reuse over and over again so that they can deliver that same solution to every client. So.
Okay, yeah, and another thing I want to ask about is one of the biggest sore points in the MSP world, apart from people being so busy to always to sit down and do something like write a proposal. They're so busy to do that. And one of the other things they're so busy to do a lot of the time is documentation. So in your proposals, how do you build in the whole thing of documentation and how you communicate after with the client and how you get it into the systems of the MSP afterwards and make sure that because I find that project engineers, you hear stories all the time that they don't actually document what they did on site. They don't document this. And it's probably because they don't feel they have the time for it. So how does documentation factor into it?
So I've seen they don't like to do it. They don't have the time to do it. There's those things come up all the time. But so I always tell MSPs documentation is part of the service process. Therefore, it has to be billable to the client. So we build it into our proposals. And even more importantly, the rest of, MSPs work together as an entire company, an entire team to support the same client. It's network administrators, service desk people, project people, VCIOs. There's everyone in the MSP needs to have a common set of information to support the client. So if you leave a project and you don't document what you've done, there's trouble on the horizon there. So
it should be a no-brainer, but people get away with a lot of stuff they shouldn't be getting away with, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's part of the process. We build it into our proposals. That's usually in the optimize phase where we put in a block of time for that at the very end of the proposal, where we're having the engineers do their time entries, put in the documentation into IT Glue, things of that sort. But extremely important. I'll tell you a funny story, and Zoran, you might have recognized this in the past, but you go out and you finish a project, you don't document it, and then the service desk starts to get their first calls, and they change back to original state what you just changed because of the project you were working on. Oh my God, that happens quite often if you don't document. So.
And then they even go and they change things and they forget to document it. And then it just becomes a cycle of who's doing what anymore, who's on first.
Yeah, and another thing we have to facilitate that documentation process is, it's not only getting the documentation into ID Glue, but usually in the optimize phase, most of our clients have us do this. We write in knowledge transfer to support teams. So when you're, something that's a significant change for a business, and the service desk is going to get calls on, almost immediately. You want to have a knowledge transfer. Because the project ends, you want the project engineer walking up to the service desk team, especially, and just showing, here's the documentation, here's where I put this, and here's how it works. And if you get calls, here's some tips and tricks, and but that gets written into that stuff gets written into a proposal, because that's what it takes to get it done successfully and put your client in a supportable situation.
Awesome.
And I think it should, sorry, just to add, it should be part of an effective onboarding, whether it's a project or taking on a new client. There is just this phase where once you've done all you need to do and the documentation is up to scratch, that it can be a smooth handover and transition to the next team, especially the help desk, because those guys are the ones getting on the flak. And I've been on the help desk before. It's a trial by fire for everyone. And not having the information, you do feel flustered, and you feel like, how am I supposed to handle these situations, particularly people who haven't been doing it for very long, and they feel like they may be doing something wrong, and it causes a lot of sort of negative energy around there, just because it's a small thing that was overlooked. And
I've seen that before. Yeah, that's not a good situation, but you can fix that. You can even have your service desk audit the documentation before you close the project, just so they know they have everything. But documentation is part of the service process. It's critical to the ongoing support by every member of the managed services company.
I agree.
Yeah, because I feel a lot of the time, like with projects and stuff like that, and when sales teams are involved, there's just always this impetus on sort of like making the sale, and then they don't really think of the operational little bits and bobs that need to happen after that, and need to happen smoothly if things are gonna actually be a long game success. So I wanted to ask Howard, what's your ideal client? What's the profile? I mean, obviously you want clients that want to go premium with their clients and everything like that. It sounds like that to me, at least. And so what maturity, because I'd say that we most like MSPs that have more than 10 technicians already, and a more mature sort of ecosystem of the way that the help desk and project team works together, rather than just a few people who are running around like crazy fighting chaos and fighting fires all day. So what can you say about your ideal client and their clients, what you like to see and what works best for your offering as it is now?
Right. So there's a certain level of maturity that managed services companies achieve, and it happens usually over time. And so our best clients are the ones who are doing really good job at technology alignment. That's proactively going out, looking at technology, comparing it to best practices, saying to the client, here's what's wrong, here's what's right. And the what's wrong is what falls into our lap is, okay, now we need a solution for that problem. You can't be Captain Obvious and go out there and say, you got all these problems, and not deliver the solution and a proposal to the client.
It probably doesn't really work with MSPs that are running around trying to lowball compared to other MSPs,
Right. Yeah.
Like you want to be more on that premium level of the MSPs who pitch clients who are interested in actually receiving the best results rather than the best prices, or something that they perceive as when I was running my own IT practice, I realized very quickly, even as a teenager, that the clients who wanted to haggle on price were not the clients that I wanted. The clients who wanted to haggle on price were the clients that would least trust my expertise as well, and most get in the way of me actually giving them the result that they want. So I always became premium. Yeah.
A $4 million run rate MSP with 60 to 70 clients, managed services clients who pay them every month. They don't need, they don't need clients who are going to haggle. They want people to take their advice so they can quiet the noise. Yeah, they don't want people fighting every good recommendation that they make. So when they reach that point, they can select who they want, to be on the roster, so to speak, and who they don't need, and that's the value of getting to that, that $4 million run rate. But generally, we're looking for MSPs that have that structure where they're doing that technology alignment, because we know that their clients are going to find out that they have aging systems, unsupported operating systems, problems. We put MSP tools on our client systems, so we know when the bandwidth is being used up. We can tell when things are going to, the burgeoning issues that are going to eventually become problems. So MSPs that reach that level of maturity and have people dedicated to benchmarking a client system against industry standard best practices are perfect clients for us, because they're the ones who are identifying client need and then need to provide that proposal for the solution. So they're the best fit for us.
And who
generally,
better to provide that sort of bird's eye view of best practices than you, who's seeing all the MSPs, all the clients, all the projects, and how they're all working out, right?
Yeah.
I like it.
So that's true. So, MSPs that are usually, they start at around $2.5 million when they latch on to Project Fuel. And then in a very, very short period, we're able to double, triple, quadruple their revenues just through helping them with their alignment processes and then their professional services teams. Many of my clients are these tremendous success stories. What I learned to do, it took me 20 years, my first MSP, 3 years, my second MSP. And now I'm able to help these MSPs have that kind of slingshot turnaround and growth to their organization.
Exponential growth, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been huge. It's been really huge for them. So we'll start with them as generally in a $2.5 million run rate range, and then it goes up from there. We work with MSPs that are already in the 10 million run rate range.
Awesome.
I think when everyone can sort of be more selective like that, even the MSP and the client, you get to the solution quicker. You get to have more of a dialogue, and people are more reasonable, and there's a lot less pushback on, not giving them quantifiable metrics on this is how we're improving things. Howard, like you were saying about having the agent on the computers, you have an overview of things that some people in the business won't really grasp, and it's just about showing them results, as you say. And I think that's the bottom line in the end.
Yeah, most people, most businesses that reach a certain level of success, the end use customers, they know what an hour of downtime is going to cost them, and so they measure everything based on that. I mean, it's like, okay, if I'm going to go down for an hour or a half a day, how much is that going to cost the business? What does that look like to our customers? And they'll make their technology decisions based on those things. But they need an MSP to help them navigate through that. Most MSPs now call them strategists or virtual CIOs. They need that entity to help them make technology business decisions, especially the ones that don't have an internal IT staff. So those are the mature MSPs that we're very successful with.
Yeah. So are there other companies in this space doing a similar service to yours, or are you super unique and the first one to do this?
I really haven't seen anybody yet doing it. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's just not something we've come across yet. So I think certain businesses, certain MSPs will try to insource it, and they'll use either administrative personnel who don't have the technical experience, or you pointed that out, or they'll draw in their high-end engineers to do the work and take them out of the field, and which is also problematic in many other ways. So some people try to insource it using bandwidth and human resource cycles, where they feel like people can wear multiple hats. But generally, these MSPs that get to this point of alignment are just they just need a full-time, almost a full-time person writing proposals.
Yeah, and there tends to be a sort of weak spot between technicians as managers and technicians having like the big picture of business. If someone's super technical, doesn't mean that they know how to manage people and their expectations, or to get
and
people. Yeah, exactly. And if somebody, so I always find that management in IT is a completely different thing than technical stuff in IT, and that the best people will have a bit of both, but actually focus actively on one. And so I mean, Zoran's super technical, I'm super management oriented, and I think that's why we're both interviewing this, because we're looking at different perspectives, I think. So that sort of stuff. But with your perspective, you're actually you're basically outsourcing this part of their business And it's the same logic that they're getting business out of, which is basically going to companies and saying, well, rather than hiring your full-time IT guy who's not going to have the big picture that we do, we're going to get in there and actually run this part of your business based on some actual insights and some actual leadership in the industry.
And they may also try and save money by, like Eric, as you said, getting a jack of all trades, like a person who's a technical manager, and then he just ends up being mediocre at both because he's trying to, jump between one and the other. And yeah, that's obviously where an organization like Project Fuel would come in great handy.
Yeah, we feel like, we're doing enough enterprise proposals. We're writing proposals for automakers in Detroit, large financial institutions, large medical institutions. So we're writing these enterprise proposals where we need to have the technical expertise on board. So that won't, we're not going to bring in engineers that don't have enough technical expertise. And we will for administrative roles as the business continues to grow. But on the front lines are going to be our strongest engineers who can, understand all of the technology and help our MSPs decide what's the right solution for their client.
Now, I wanted to ask about something which is a question mark in my mind, that based on what you've said. What if, okay, so you're providing the proposal and the engineers are going to execute it, but in the case that for whatever reason, probably not your fault, the proposal does not work out as planned, do you step in and do damage control as well?
We've been asked in the middle of a project to do to educate an the project team engineer who was the recipient of one of our proposals. But it happens It happens very rarely because we put we put PE references in our proposals. And the client and anything that we feel like they may not have done before, something that's very new or something that's unique, an application that they may never have seen or touched that they're being asked to migrate. We'll do the research. We'll know exactly what needs to be done. We'll write the proposal that way, but we'll put the breadcrumbs in there for the engineer to go and find the technical resources to make sure that he has everything that he needs to do the work. So there's a research component in place before that happens.
So the answer is not no, but it shouldn't have to be like that.
Right? It shouldn't have to be like that. I mean, because we have a heavy emphasis on the knowledge transfer process, and we've kind of perfected that. That kind of eliminates some of the unknowns or the missteps. The documentation we put in place, here's what it is, here's what the work plan, then here's what it isn't, the notes and disclaimers at the bottom. We can eliminate a lot of the misunderstandings that can generally happen that make a project go sideways. So one of those things is really heavily focusing on business requirements, because if a VCIO of some level of experience, we may not know the profiles of every one of the VCIOs that work for all these MSPs that we work for. But if a VCIO comes to us and says, I want a new server, I want a domain replication to the cloud, and I want this, why? We want to know why. We ask the question about business requirement before we start with the technical requirement. If they want to rush to the technical requirements, it's got to feel almost embarrassing for them now, because we're just go right to the business requirement. I realize some of these people are going to watch this video, but really focus on the business requirement, because at the end of the day, the client needed something that's faster, has more storage space because they're taking on there's a business requirement behind it. As long as we understand that and get that information through the knowledge transfer, again, a lot less chance for a project to go sideways. So we're focusing on that. And then because we follow standards and best practices for the industry, we don't go down a rabbit hole that we might be asked to do. We kind of work with our VCIOs to help them understand what might happen if they go down a specific path that they're asking us to do. But because we follow standards and best practices, we're a lot less likely to have one of those pitfalls with a project, because we used straight down the middle of the fairway technology, straight down the middle of the fairway practices, and now it's working the way it should be. If the engineer doesn't have the experience to do the work, and that can sometimes be an issue, projects can go sideways that way, but we don't warrant the expertise level of the engineer that's being handed the project. We only try to help them through a well laid out business plan a well laid out work plan, and then the breadcrumbs that we drop in the proposal if we think they may have not seen the work before or done the work before.
Do you often have situations where a client comes to you with a laundry list of, oh, we want this, we want that, based on buzzwords that they've heard, or, these people are doing this, like you mentioned, hybrid and cloud situations, and you have to kind of bring them back down to earth and say, like, hang on, as you say, business requirement comes first. Does it happen often?
We learn, learning the business requirements. Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. Sometimes we get asked to do things that aren't even possible by a VCIO or
sales team,
a member of the MSP team. And so we have to just say, like, we've run down this path before and have seen this happen and that happen. We don't think it's going to work. And every once in a while, I think it's happened 2 times in the 2.5 years now we've been doing this. Only 2 times did we ever refuse to write a proposal. Most times the MSP will follow suit and let us help them design a solution that will meet business and technical requirements, even though it wasn't what they had envisioned when the conversation started.
But obviously you've kind of come together and help them to form a better understanding of, this is what will work best for your business based on the requirements that you've given.
And that's that vision that you get.
That's the point.
Working for so many,
Exactly. That's the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how do you vet the clients that you're bringing on to make sure that they're going to be receptive to allowing you to sort of take the lead on providing these proposals? What sort of questions do you ask when you're trying to figure out if MSP is going to be good to work with?
Yeah, first thing I ask them what their run rate, their MRR run rate is, their overall, run rate is for financials that year. I ask them for if they have, structure to their MSP. If you look at some of the True Profit, True Methods, Robin's, they all have they all have this certain a view of how what the structure of an MSP should look like. But if they don't have I want to know if they have alignment, teams in there, because if they don't, then they're just going to have this spot. I need 1 proposal this week, 1 proposal next month, and two proposals this week. It just becomes inconsistent for us. So I'm looking for the ones that do alignment well. And so I'll run through a list of questions with them when I first meet them, and then I'll educate them whether or not I feel like they're a good fit for us or we can actually help them. I want referenceable clients. I don't want to take on just anybody. I want people that are going to have really good value from the service that we provide. And that's why all we've done so far is word of mouth through True Profit, through True Methods, through awesome. Robin's. All of our clients have been just word of mouth through that channel.
Yeah, it's so important to figure out who's going to benefit from what you're doing. And so, all right. So, I think that's a pretty good introduction to what you do. And the next steps, if someone's interested in this, is to book a call with you. And we'll put the info on how to get in touch with you below in the description. And is there anything else you wanted to add about your services?
No, I mean, we're happy to talk to clients that potential clients that are interested in that, and happy to even share more about the details of how we do the service and the onboarding process and the actual operational processes that we do to help them understand whether it might be a good fit or not. No, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get on today, and I look forward to continuing to work with you guys and help you in any way that I can.
Great, thanks a lot.
You're
So guys,
welcome.
get in touch with Howard, because it sounds like he can supercharge your projects. So thanks a lot, Zoran, for co-hosting this and bringing in the technical bit. And this has been MSP Mountain. So subscribe to this channel if you're interested in hearing more of the MSP minds and helping you reach new heights in your MSP. This is going to be a good thing that's going to grow. I can feel it. So thanks for watching, listening, or whatever it is. And we'll catch you guys later. Bye, Howard. Bye, Zoran.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye, guys.